Welcome to Justice Served. If you are in YSL withdrawal, well, we have a special guest. Doug Weinstein is here with us today to answer all of our questions.
Justice, justice, where are you?
Well, we know where justice is. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not sure. Is that where justice is? Is that where justice should be? Is that where justice wants to be?
Is that where justice isn't?
I don't know. But let's get Doug in here right now and figure out what the heck is happening down there. Look at this guy. He's I know it's the holidays, but it's been no
Happy
court.
holidays.
As Linda mentioned, we're all in withdrawal, YSL withdrawal for the last couple of days. I'm thinking you're not.
I am not in YSL withdrawal, actually.
And you
and I'm going
represent
to get back to
Gotti.
YSL tomorrow. So.
You represent Gotti. We should say that.
Yes, I represent Diamante Kendrick.
Yes.
And of course, this is the case, the Fonnie Willis orchestrated case that just won't die in Fulton County. And we were down there last week getting kind of a feel on the ground for what it's like. And people are not happy, Doug, about this case continuing. We talked about it then. Nothing's changed. I can't find one person that's like, this is a gung-ho prosecution. Let's continue. They're all mad.
Yeah, I think people who have been paying any attention to this whatsoever are certainly upset with the way things have gone. And really, even the casual observer who maybe only catches a news story, every month or two on this, I think they're going to pick up that this case is not really going the way people normally expect a case to go, with a strong prosecution and clear evidence and coherent presentation of witnesses. So, people see what's going on.
Every month or two. That's the kicker here. The case has been going on for almost 12 months now, and 10 months jury selection. So when are they going to when is Fonnie Willis going to catch on, Doug? Or can't you answer that?
Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that, because I really do not know how much involvement she has with this case at this point. It seems to me that the deputy district attorney, Adrian Love, is really the one that's running the show on this case. I think, from all that I can tell, when she tells the court that she believes they're winning, I think she believes they're winning. And I don't see it that way. I think most people that view it don't see it that way. But I don't see Madam DA getting involved in this case right now.
She does have a few other things on her plate.
She certainly does.
Got one or two things going on. I think she just petitioned the Supreme Court on which case was it? I think it was the documents case. Is that right? Is that the Trump case?
I know she filed a motion for recusal, right, on the documents case relating to Ashley Merchant's request, an open records request. I don't know where that went. I guess nowhere, since Judge Krause ended up hearing a lot of that. So yeah, she's got a lot of things going on, and darting up to DC for fundraisers and whatever else she may be doing.
And speaking of Ashley Merchant, let me mention, I'm sorry, before you get here, Linda, she'll be on with us next Wednesday, and we'll get an update on a whole bunch of Ashley Merchant things. So.
Oh, she's going to be a fantastic guest. I'm just standing in until you can get Ashley here.
No, you're both great. Between this case and the other case that she's involved in, the one that involves the political candidates, I think all the best lawyers in Georgia are there. You guys are great, and you know how we feel about you. But I wanted to ask you your top 3 moments for, shall we say, the defense this week? Because usually they come from the prosecution case.
Top 3 for the defense. I mean, oh my gosh. I think that the cross of retired Sergeant Gaither, which is what she seems to want to be called. I think Max's cross on that, and I think Brian's cross made some particularly good points. For example, how they've got this RICO case filed against Jeffrey Williams, but there was no investigation whatsoever, at least as far as we can tell, that was done of Jeffrey Williams' finances. I mean, how do you do a RICO case and not investigate the finances of the person that you say is the leader of this wolf pack, to use Miss Love's terminology? So I thought that was a great moment. I don't know if you can call it a great moment, but and you're probably going to get to this later, but Max Shart in particular has been hammering on documents that events the efforts that Sergeant Gaither says she went through on interviewing some witnesses, they just aren't in the file. And when she was previously on the stand in April, I believe, she said, well, they're in my file, they're in my file. Where's your file? I have no idea where the file is. And lo and behold, as you saw this week, the file showed up. And by the way, those documents were not in the file. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was interesting. I know she said she retired in 2020, and the boxes were left behind on the 5th floor in her office. I can just imagine what a pile of crap that looked like, just scattered all over. But the fact is, on the day that they were revealed, she's out in the hallway talking with retired Sergeant Gaither, learns that these documents magically now exist, and didn't go right back into the courtroom and say, Judge, I'm talking to defense counsel because these documents have just materialized. I mean, at that point, I don't care what happened prior, but at the point she's got them in her hands in the hallway, why are you not disclosing that?
that's a great question, and that's the exact question that the judge asked her. And she feigned ignorance or lack of memory of how critical a role this played in Max Shart's cross of former retired Sergeant Gaither back in April, and seemed to try to convince the court that she didn't appreciate the importance of actually finding this file that we've harped on forever. So not telling us that that file existed was astounding. Maybe it's because she really doesn't delegate very much and there's a lot she has to keep here. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is for it. It didn't appear to be out of malice. It appeared to be out of I'm not going to use the word, but I don't think it was malice or a conscious effort to not give us that file. I don't think she was even. It didn't appear from her actions in court that she remembered the importance of that file. So maybe that's the case.
Yeah, I know you can't answer this, but I come up with kind of a dichotomy with her: stupid or sneaky. Was it stupid or sneaky? And quite often I come down on the stupid side because it almost seems like everything she does, she's okay with. You know?
Yeah, I do not think Miss Love is stupid by any means. So I'm not going to lay it at that feet. I mean, she has a civil engineering degree that takes some work. I don't think you can be stupid and get a civil engineering degree. Of course, I'm biased because I'm an electrical engineer, but and we're better than civils. But still, I don't think you can be stupid and get a civil engineering degree. I know people have questioned her ability to introduce certain evidence, given her years of service and her ability to do that. But anyway, I don't chalk it up to stupidity. I really don't.
Well, isn't that just saying that you've tried all these cases then in the past and either you've been sloppy or the judges have allowed you to be sloppy, and then when it comes to a high profile case, you don't know how to do it right?
Well, you can talk to a number of lawyers that practice in Fulton County and that have been up against Miss Love over the past 10 or 15 years. And they all have stories. But I think in those situations, what you have is a trial that lasts, maybe a week? So a judge can put up with a lot of stuff for a week. A pattern doesn't necessarily develop. Here you've had a situation where there has really been a pattern of obstruction, a pattern of Brady violations, a pattern of issues that have come up in court that have caused us, I believe at last count, 45 times to seek a mistrial. And so those issues with her and the way she handles cases are magnified in a case that has gone on since January of 2023.
Can I just follow up on one question regarding the finance issue? And I was astounded by that because how we've been explaining this to people is that how could legal acts become illegal acts? If your child or your church or sells or your school has a lemonade stand or cookie stand, and you sell that lemonade or cookies to everybody, and then you put the money in the coffers of a gang, that's considered gang activity, even though the sale of the lemonade or the cookies is legal. If you're not looking at where the money came from into Jeffrey Williams' Young Thug YSL's finances, how can you then establish a RICO connection?
Yeah, I'm not speaking about things that haven't occurred outside the courtroom or haven't occurred yet. But I think if you look at the evidence that's been presented since November, you haven't seen any evidence of what you would expect to see in a RICO gang case. You haven't seen any testimony that people were assigned certain roles in an organization, that there's any kind of a hierarchy, that money flows in any direction, up, down, sideways, that people are tasked with certain jobs. None of that comes out. To the extent they bring in these past convictions of certain people they say are members of this alleged gang YSL, all the testimony has been these are people that have acted on their own, for their own benefit, not for the benefit of any gang, and certainly not for the benefit of Jeffrey Williams.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting with regard to that. What is your second best moment this week for the defense?
Gosh.
Well, I know
Second best moment.
Didn't know there was
going
going to be an
astonishing.
exam.
I'm sorry. What's the
I
most
wasn't prepared.
astonishing moment? Because people are just so interested in how you feel and how your client feels and what it's like to be in that courtroom. I mean, we're experiencing it through you.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but I think it was just so overwhelming that the gobsmacked moment was when that file showed up. And I think you could see that when you see there's some pictures floating around of us all huddling around the file when it finally was brought forward. And to say that we were gobsmacked is an understatement, because for those that have been following this trial on a daily basis, it's not just that we brought this up with Sergeant Gaither. There have been issues of missing reports constantly. And even Judge Glanville, who many people feel was biased toward the state, repeatedly ordered the state send people over to APD headquarters. Go look, you physically go over there, send someone from the DA's office, look through the file, see if you can find these things that they're complaining about. Because they've tended to chalk it up to, well, we had this big hack in Fulton County and whatever it was, 2018. But of course, that doesn't explain the missing paper files. So it's not just Gaither's testimony, it's the repeated orders from the judge. You go look. And I believe Judge Whitaker said the same thing. Send somebody over there, you have a big team, go look, and they all come back empty-handed. And then it just pops up. I'm out of words. I'm out of words.
I think that was the top three things all in one.
Yeah, it was all rolled into one.
So let me ask a couple of Gaither follow-ups, because she's such an interesting person.
She is.
First of all, why are we not seeing her? What's she hiding? What's the deal? Did she do some undercover work? Is she afraid for her safety? What's the point?
I think if this was the first time that she would have taken the stand, that Judge Whitaker would have had Gaither shown on video, because according to the order that was put in by Judge Glanville, what needs to be shown to not video film a witness has not been shown with respect to Gaither. And I really believe I was actually winning that argument when we went to the bench. But in the end, Judge Whitaker has been very reluctant to revisit rulings of Judge Glanville. And since Judge Glanville had previously ordered her to not be shown, Judge Whitaker just stuck with that. And I'll tell you, in the past, basically, I have argued, for the most part, there have been some exceptions where I have agreed that there maybe was an issue. But for the most part, anytime the state has designated a witness not to be shown, I've objected to that. Under Judge Glanville, he pretty much, if they asked for it not to be shown, that was it. And that's what happened with Gaither. The state asked for her not to be shown, and that was it. And Whitaker's just stuck by this.
Yeah, there was a female witness, I think a girlfriend of somebody, who wanted to not be shown, and then she lost that argument, and we got to see her. I don't know if it's just people are embarrassed to be connected somehow, or if they really think there's some possible recrimination that might come their way by being on camera. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I believe the state likes to not show witnesses because they're trying to put it out there that they're afraid of the defendants and people that are friends of the defendants. But whenever we've taken up those issues on cross, the people the witnesses are afraid of is the prosecution. They're afraid the prosecution is going to lock them up. And you can see, by the way just watch how the prosecution handles a direct examination of their own witnesses versus the way that we treat those witnesses. People are always like, and now I'm getting off track, but I don't care. People, people are always like, why are the witnesses so open to the defendants, but with the state they appear to be hostile? Well, I think it's because the state is hostile to the witness, and at least I speak for myself, but I've watched the others. I think I treat these witnesses like human beings and try to extend the same courtesy I would extend to anyone else, and people respond to being treated like human beings. So anyway, I don't think they're afraid of us, but that's why they're asking for them not to be shown.
Michael, you had another follow-up with Gaither, I know.
Well, yeah, it's the Gaither thing. And this is, we're hearing it when I wasn't in the courtroom. Obviously, we're hearing this audio generated by the various electronic sources. And I'm hearing so much under the breath stuff by witnesses, even by the judge, which Linda and I are going to talk about later, because I isolated some audio that is unbelievable from the judge. What is the deal? Are you hearing, like when Gaither says something that she'll badmouth Steele or one of your co-counsel, are you hearing that while sitting in the courtroom?
Because of where I'm currently located, I've moved from being up by the podium to now I'm kind of in a back corner, which I'm very happy with. But now that I'm back there, I did not hear Gaither utter any of those things. Now, of course, I heard it on the stream when I listened later. And of course, everybody, a lot of people, which I really appreciate, sent me clips of that while I was in court. So I heard the clips while I was in court. So I heard what Gaither was saying under her breath. And I'm glad that Mr. Adams eventually brought that up. I've also seen, again, not in person because of where I'm located, she's blocked, but I've seen clips of the antics, the behavior of the prosecutor, of Miss Love, during the course of our cross-examinations. And I haven't brought that up because, frankly, I make some faces too, so I'm not the best person to bring things up because I have no poker face. But I can't hear it in the courtroom what Gaither says, and I haven't heard anything the judge said either in the courtroom or on a clip under her breath. So I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah,
Funny you should mention that. That's my ringtone, poker face, because today, as Michael knows, I was out playing poker all day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, but tell me this, because having tried high-profile cases, we get a lot of stuff. We used to get a lot of stuff in Hernandez from social media, people watching who would send us things that we may not be, so we're so busy on the case that we may not see or hear. And I found it very helpful. We found it very helpful. We actually followed it a lot of times, and people would send us things. And some of our biggest leads were, one biggest lead as to where a witness was came through social media. Has it been effective in your case? Have you found people to help you?
I think the people that are trying to help out on social media, and God, I don't want to encourage this, but the people that have emailed me some things, people that have direct messaged me, some of what I get is pretty helpful. And I'll give you one very specific example. When I was in the midst of all of my DQ motions, disqualification motions, and recusal motions, there were people doing research. They were sending me case law, lawyers across the country, lawyers in Georgia, people reaching out and sending me stuff. And some of that ended up in my brief. Now, not their language, but some of the cases that people gave me ended up in my brief. And the other thing is, more towards the beginning of the case, I was trying to use it to get a pulse of what the jury kind of might be thinking about certain witnesses. But I think at this point, given the way this case has gone, most, not all, but most people that are streaming this case are very pro-defendant now. And so I don't believe that's necessarily an accurate reflection of what the jury's thinking. But I love it. People want to send me clips, keep doing it.
Yeah, but now you have to give your email.
I'm easy to find.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's not hiding.
I'm
Hey,
not hiding.
speaking of the jury, and we've had people ask this question, they're thinking, why didn't the jury, when they came back from that long extended break and were asked, hey, anybody here that can't continue? And they're all like, nope, we're ready to go. That surprised some viewers, thinking, well, they must be in the state's bag, because they wanted to just wait till this is over and find these guys guilty. What's your take on why the jury decided to hang in there?
assume all of that was on the stream when the judge was questioning the jury about that. And I think it's the methodology that the judge used to ask that question to the jury. That question was embedded in a longer monologue about a lot of issues. And and the way that it was put was all the jurors were there together. They're all in the jury box. He required them to either stand or raise their hand. I don't remember. And if they, I don't remember what it was, consumed social media or believe they couldn't continue, whatever the reason was. And I just think the peer pressure and the social pressure of raising your hand or standing, whichever one it was, and the way it was just boom, boom, boom. I just think that was a situation that was not going to get anyone to raise their hand or stand up. I think if she would have brought them in individually and uh I say voir dire, but anyway, voir dire them.
I say what?
And if she had voir dired them individually, one by one, we may have gotten a completely different answer from some of them. But the way it was done was more like almost like a leading question. I think that's it. I don't think the jury's in the back. I watch this jury intently during certain parts of testimony to get feedback. I see whether they're taking notes. I see whether they're paying attention. I don't think the jury is in the bag for the state.
Well, we don't think the jury should be in the bag for the state. You know that our feeling here on Justice Serve is very, very pro-defense in terms of this. Not because we want to.
I'm pro-facts and pro-law.
We're pro-facts.
Whatever it may lead me to.
We're proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And that's what feels like. Well, how can you side with all these people who are committing crime? There's been no demonstration that the RICO charge has been proven. After 10 months, you should have something besides, somebody pled guilty to a marijuana, weed, or 3 Xanax in the bottom of a car, or somebody pleaded guilty to this thing 12, 13 years ago. I mean, the most important thing, obviously, is the murder, the homicide, right? And there's been no connection to these defendants.
I'm really surprised at the way the state put on the case. Now, I'm really in no position to criticize because obviously DA Love has more experience prosecuting cases than I do. But I'm surprised that they just simply went chronologically through the indictment. It seemed to be a way to go through it where you don't really think out, well, what's the best way? Is chronologically? Now, maybe they did go through a thinking process and they decided chronologically is the best way. But what you had was months of testimony about incidents and people that were not even in the courtroom. So if I'm the jury, while they did hear the indictment read to them back in January of 2023, but if I'm the jury, I have to be scratching my head like, what is going on here? None of these people are in the room. This happened in 2013, 2014. I mean, I don't, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask a question about money because people are concerned about the jurors, and my take on it was, and I didn't get to see them all that well because you know how weird the wall is there between that part of the gallery but I could still see, people weren't limping in, they weren't gray haired, but a lot of times people get on juries that are long like this because they're either, not really retired, but they have a flexible work life, or they are retired, or they're disabled, or somehow they don't have a 9-to-5 commitment. Mm-hmm. That would be very difficult for anybody to coexist with. What employer is going to say, yeah, take 2 years, we'll see on the other side. So for their $35 a day,
25.
Is it 20? I looked it up. I thought it was 35. No,
but they'd like the raise.
Wow, I'll have to double check. I could have sworn it was a Georgia statute had it up to 35. Yeah. And they've been there. I don't know how many days total, but they're making less than $1,000 so far, based on my rough calculations. What do you see from the jury? I know we can't really talk about things that might identify them, but in general, I mean, do they look like people that are being hurt by not working every day?
Well, that 10-month jury selection process, a lot of that was about hardship. So anybody that would have had a hardship sitting on a trial of, I think the judge said 6 months, but people think he said 6 to 9 months. But whatever, anybody that would have a hardship sitting on a trial for this long was excused. So the people that are sitting on the jury are all people that do not have a hardship. Either their work pays them for jury duty, and I'm sure all of their workplaces are now amending their policies. I actually probably know the jury duty policy of every major corporation. I'm sure I know it. Every major corporation in Atlanta, with 2,100 jurors having gone through there. So most of these people, if they're working, they are with companies that do not have a limit on how many days they pay for jury duty. So if they're working, they're getting paid, or they're retired, or they are maybe their spouse has income. So all these people that are sitting on there, at least initially, told the judge that they could afford to be there for a 6 to 9 month trial.
Okay, well, taking that question one step further, the lawyers and the defendants, you have defendants sitting in jail without bond for what, okay, maybe a 6-month trial, but it's now clearly going to go into 2025, maybe December of 2025. Lawyers, you have practices, you have other clients, you have people that you represent. How do you handle, and people will rag on me for this, but the pressure on you as lawyers and your clients being in jail? I mean, for all this time, they sit there, the same routine. They're up at probably 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, having their breakfast, getting them ready, transporting them in. It seems to me that it really is an abusive process for everybody at this point.
You know, I really hesitate to say anything about the hardship on the attorneys when our clients are sitting in Rice Street since May of 22. So I feel guilty to even say it, but it's very challenging to maintain our practice. There's 2 other lawyers that work with me, and we have, I have 60 plus trials I have to do when this case is over. Many of those trials, my clients are sitting in jail. So it's not just these guys sitting in jail because of this trial. It's my other clients sitting in jail who haven't bonded out because of this trial. It's financially challenging on the practice. So this is
Does the state
affecting.
want to use that? Are they extending this to use that hardship, knowing that the lawyer, that the clients are sitting in the jail, knowing the lawyers, this is hardship on the lawyers? I mean, that's the missing piece to me. Is
I don't
do they
think
know
so.
that?
I don't think so. I think they're drawing their paycheck every week. They're government employees, and they just don't care how long this takes. They just don't care. It doesn't affect them. It's like I told the court. I said this in court, so I'm happy to say it again. It doesn't affect them in any way. They go home, they see their families, they wake up, they live their normal life. Doesn't matter if this trial takes a year, 2 years, or 5 years. Nothing about their life is affected by this case. But my clients' lives are, not just the ones in this case, but my other clients' lives are upended by the length of this case. And for lawyers watching, if you can find me case law, I mean, I have been working and working to try to come up with an argument that the right to a speedy trial encompasses the right to speedy justice. And obviously, we do not have speedy justice here. And I have some basis in the Magna Carta and Old English law. It's just never been interpreted that way. And it's sad that that's the case. Of course, how many criminal trials last this long?
No, very, very, very few.
So there hasn't been a lot of opportunity to rule on that issue, but it's a problem.
So we're going to do something on Rice Street as this thing continues to
Please
unfold.
do.
It's frightening. I mean, Rikers is kind of the standard for horrible treatment of inmates.
For
and
people
Rice
that
is,
don't know, that's in New York City, right?
yes, Rikers Island. Hey, Law and Order. Anybody watching Law and Order knows Rikers Island. But Rice Street is more, an ugly secret. So we definitely want to get into that. Okay, so based on the way this is dragging out, let's look forward. Let's see, if we can see the horizon. We know that Judge Whitaker has asked, and she never demands. She's always asking if the prosecution can go through their witness list and whittle it down. And do you really need these people? Do you not? Do you expect any of that to happen? And when you get back at it next Wednesday without the jury, where are you going?
I really, until recently, had very little hope that she would do anything to have the prosecution cut their witness list down or to put a time limit on the state, as I have repeatedly urged and provided case law support for on several occasions. But given her comments in court this past Wednesday, where she said, look, you guys are, meaning the state, you guys are dragging out your direct examination. You're not being efficient here. I'm going to have to really consider, and if we were in federal court, I could tell you, hey, you got 1 hour with this witness. And I don't know why the judge keeps going by this idea of putting time limits on specific witnesses. The case law I have found supports putting a time limit. Basically, here's your chunk of time, state, X number of days or hours. You decide how to divvy that up. You decide how to best use that. And she may get there because the state is just plotting. So maybe we'll get to, if not a limit on the number of witnesses, maybe some type of time limit on certain witnesses. Maybe with each witness, Judge Whitaker will say, okay, tell me what you want to present with this witness, and I'll tell you how many hours of direct you have. But we're getting closer to that point. And so I have some hope she'll do that because, again, we're looking at going into late spring or early summer. Now, we still have our case to put on.
Right.
With a number of witnesses. Brian has a slew of witnesses to put on. And that's going to
Brian
take
Steele,
time.
for those who are watching.
Yeah.
You probably all know Brian Steele represents YSL Jeffrey Williams.
Yeah. And by the way, just to make it clear, not all of the defense counsel are in agreement on time limits. So I'm just speaking for myself on time limits. However, I will say, however much time the state has had, I don't need any more than that to put on my case. So I'm okay with that.
There was an interesting moment when that discussion was taking place with ADA Love and the judge said, look, federal court, they may say you get an hour for this and Love says, well, would there be a time limit on the defense? My first thought was they don't need it, considering what we've seen them do and what we've seen you do. Don't worry about a limit on them. Of course, there would be. That's a stupid question.
Yeah.
But have you seen this unfold where you're taking 3 times what you should and they're taking a third of that and it's fine? So it's just a weird perception on her part.
Yeah. And I don't even know that I would agree that we need time limits on us. As you say, we haven't really demonstrated the need for that. The second thing is, while she does correctly point out that the state has the burden, we have certain constitutional rights. And I think those would argue against a time limit on us. But again, just speaking for myself, give me the same amount of time the state has had, and I will have no problem putting on my witnesses within that time frame.
That's great. That's great. Well, we look forward to speaking with you at updates, hopefully every week. We also want to address something here in Justice Sir, which is I know this is a holiday, a Rosh Hashanah, and we're glad that you took the time to speak with us. The court is off because of it, and as well it should be, in my opinion.
Right. And people have asked, so let me just say, no court Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no jury. Those will be motions days. Okay?
Appreciate the update on that, and good luck
Thank you.
Go forward.
And hopefully
Thank you,
we'll
and
see
thank you
next
for
week.
having me on.
Of course.
Thank
Talk to
you,
again
Doug. You're
soon,
great.
Doug.
Always a pleasure.
All right, then, let's just say goodbye. Before we do, of course, where in the world is justice? We were in Atlanta. Who knows where we will be next? But we got a couple things on the drawing board, correct?
Correct. We are making travel arrangements for where justice will be soon. Our winner of our last mug, the one that Michael just held up, was Amanda. There'll be clues coming to you very soon. And Michael will be the one on the road. And if you answer where in the world Michael will be, because he's our justice from Justice Serves, you also can drink your coffee or water or whatever you vibe or anything. If I were in the case this long, I'd learn to drink vodka or tequila or something. All right. And I'll stay tuned on our website, Justice Serve TV.
Very good. And try to do the right thing. I've been bringing that back to life. Try to do the right thing.